Welcome to the Black Box App Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson. We are live today, and we're going to keep this whole movement going by welcoming David Campbell to the Black Box App Podcast. David is the Vice President of Field Distribution and Operations for the state of Michigan, AAA Auto Group. Met this brother when I was out at the National Diversity Council Black Men in Leadership Summit. Looked at him, spoke with him, knew he was a leader, knew I needed to bring him onto the Black Box App Podcast. David, what's good?
Hey, man, I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate you, Kenneth. Like you said, it was great meeting you, and the connection was real, so I appreciate you asking me to join.
Man, I'm glad you were able to join. You know what? The connection was real because, correct me if I'm wrong, you're from the Bronx, right?
I am from the boogie down. I'm a Yankee fan, Giants fan, all of that. Yes.
All right, stop all that. So I'm a Phillies fan. We're in the World Series trying to deal with the people that y'all sent to us. So, I get it, though. I get it. Yeah. You know what? If you were from the Bronx and weren't a Yankees fan, I probably wouldn't respect you. I really, how could that not happen? I mean,
that's fair to say. That's fair to say. It would have been a real thing. It would have I can't even think about the other teams. It's only Yankees.
You would have had to tell me, like, well, you know, my pop played for the Dodgers, and it would have had to be that straight of a line, like where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this, man. I was looking at your background, amazing career journey. I'd love for you to kind of, speak to our listeners. The Black Box App Podcast is all about amplifying the voices of Black men, but really along the lens of sharing stories of career journeys from Black men. So other young Black men and Black men at middle management, senior levels can either reflect on those stories or learn and grow and take something from the journey. So walk us on your career journey real quick. Where'd you go to school?
So originally I went to school at SUNY Westbury.
Okay.
I actually joined a fraternity there. I would tell you I was more of a student of the social scene than I was a student of academia at the time. But I did.
You mentioned the fraternity. You got to shout it out.
I got to shout out Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, Spring 98, SUNY Westbury Lambda Phi chapter. That's who made me.
I love it.
So it was awesome. You know what I mean? I went and I learned a lot, but I would tell you I still, like I said, was focused more on my social aspect of school as opposed to the educational aspect. And it's funny, I ended up picking up a job at Chase Bank at the time, and it was really a part-time job. If I'm being honest with you and your listeners, it was really more about helping support my social career as opposed to the work that it was associated to. I'm just being honest with you, right?
Your social career. I love that statement. I'm getting ready to get t-shirts, my social career. Hey, look, that would be a great podcast in itself, like the social
So I did it, but then there came a point in my life where I said, actually Chase was leaving Long Island and moving their call center, because I was working in their call center to Texas. And I said to myself, look, I can't keep just living for fun. I need to start to think about my future, which was fortunate for me. I give some credit definitely to my fraternity, but a lot of credit to my parents and the fact that they said, hey, you need to get this figured out as an adult, because, coming back home is not your first, outlet. That's your last resort. So I chose the decision to move to Texas because I knew I had a chance to get some additional licensing from a securities aspect. They were offering our 6 and 63. And as a young Black guy, they also gave $10,000 associated to the move. So I was like, that's more money than I've ever had in my bank account before. And I think that would set me off really well. And me and actually my line brother ended up moving down together because we were both working in Texas. And that was when I changed my whole attitude around ambition and trying to really propel my career in a different way. And that was how I finished my education. I got my degree ultimately from the University of Phoenix. Okay. But I really started to fast forward my learning, my education, my desire to be promoted. And that's where I learned a lot of the tools that it takes in order to move from literally a part-time employee at Chase Bank to a VP of a $2 billion plus business here in Michigan right now. So that's kind of the beginning of my journey. I don't know how much more you want me to share with you right now.
No, yeah, I love it. It's really interesting. I think it's that window, right? So I started my educational journey out at the University of Maryland at College Park. A lot like you, my social career was really important to me then. It was really important to me. So important that I decided it was, well, I guess I decided, and pretty much Maryland decided it was best for me to get out of there and go somewhere else and pursue my social career. But what happened, that was the time when it clicked for me. I went to the University of Pittsburgh, held a pit, and it clicked. I knew I needed to get a lot more focused in on what it was that I wanted to do. And I think that helped as well. I started out as an economics major and then kind of changed the scope and went with an industrial psychology lens for the work that I wanted to do. But it was maturity that kind of related. So I think for the purpose of the Black Box Act podcast, a career consciousness portal for Black men, I want to tell everyone that sometimes it takes a while for it to click, and don't be disappointed in yourself if at 19 and 20 you don't get it. There's still time, but you got to stay the course. Don't get out here and get into anything that could jeopardize you having the time to change course.
Very true. Very, very true. Because those things occurred in my life, and fortunate for me, my parents were available to help support me. And I was able to make it through again to be able to get licensing and things like that. So, you talk about a story that had a lot of veers and curves and twists to it. I don't know if I'm good enough for a movie, but I had a lot of stuff in there, that could have deterred me from the point I'm at today.
I definitely believe you are good enough for a movie, my friend. So let's talk about it. So throughout your career, now you were working in financial services. And in a sense, wow, your journey from that, I was looking at, and you've been in leadership roles ever since you left Chase, even at Chase, so you've been in leadership roles as a leader of employees. And I'm assuming through your leadership path, you've probably had some Black men that reported directly to you.
Yes.
Tell me kind of how you managed making sure that they were okay, but without kind of holding their hand as well, making sure that they learned in their careers. Can you talk about that?
I can, because currently, my number two, if you will, is a Black man, and solid guy. I think the most of him. So I've been fortunate to have many different Black men that have reported to me. One of the things that I talk to them about most is, one, being good at the role that you're in first, right? Because a lot of times, actually, maybe it's more the current environment as opposed to Black men or any other group. Right now, we're in a society that's like there's an incubation period that is very short. Whereas in the past, like when we came up, people knew that they needed to spend time in role, be successful for multiple years before they had opportunities to promote. Whereas today, maybe it's because of, various things, social media, the access to information, you'll find that people want to get into a job and immediately get to the next job and immediately get to the next job. And I'm like, you really got to be good at the job that you have, because normally the progression means you need to now teach those that are in a role that you were once in. So your proficiency at that role helps you become a better leader, because you know their experiences, you know their challenges, you know what they're going to face, and you can help them avoid the hurdles that you encountered when you first went through that. The other thing I tell them is to be patient. Being patient is kind of along the same lines, right? It's understanding that this is about development, whether you're on purpose being developed by your organization or just your experience and the role is developing you. That is important for you in the future. I still go back to lessons that I learned, almost 20 years ago at Chase Bank. So being able to be the one that is thinking through all the different challenges that might confront me or confront the people that I work with. I always say those things to those young Black leaders. And the most important piece of my career and I say is, if not number one reason I've gotten to where I am, is definitely in the top 3 reasons to why I am where I am today, is being willing to be coached and mentored and seeking out mentorship. and being comfortable with seeking out mentorship from even my peers, but from a career aspiration standpoint, looking at my boss and his leader or his or her leader to be the one to help give me additional mentorship. So it helps me learn at a more rapid rate than the peers that I'm sitting next to.
Man, you talked on so many great points there, because, just in understanding the process to getting where people need to go, you spoke about, needing to be able to do a job so you can share that experience with the people coming through, right? And sometimes that's not about the technical skills, because they'll always change, especially in today's world. Technology is moving really fast, but the soft skills associated with being successful, and some people don't like to call them soft skills, but say the necessary skills, and then the emotional intelligence involved. You spoke about mentorship, empathy, and the whole learning and professional development piece is all important as well. If you don't mind, share with me some of the things that you believe have made you successful in your transitions and your growth into your professional career, the tools that weren't necessarily technical, but the things that you brought to the table that you believe served you well.
Yeah, I would, one high one on the list is first, visibility at any role. And what I mean by that is, I'm a more senior leader at my organization, obviously. And oftentimes I'll go to my lowest common denominator. And I don't mean that disparagingly of those people, but I just mean the person that's kind of the lowest ranked person on my team. And those are individuals I talk to, because just because they're in that role today doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to get to my role potentially in the future.
For sure.
So I'm talking to all of those people and serving them. So as a leader, we talk about servant leadership, rolling up your sleeves, those types of comments, but it's only in action when you're actually really talking to those individuals at every single level. So for me, one of the things that I think has always been a great testament, if I will, to my leadership is that everyone on my team feels comfortable with coming to me with an issue. They know I'm clear about if it's a individual item or individual risk item that's not for my purview. If you see a systematic issue, that's where we should have a real conversation. So I'm good about coaching them on what are the right items to bring to me, but that's their development for their future, right? So if they get promoted into the future, it helps them know what to focus on as they continue to move up. The other piece, like I said, is that formal mentorship, at least 2 levels above me. Because a lot of times we have to understand, especially in corporate leadership or in corporate America, your boss can't get you to their level. Like they can't bring you up to sit next to them. You're usually trying to get their seat.
Yes.
So if you only use your direct boss as a mentor, it's almost impossible for them to bring you up into their seat unless they get promoted out of it.
Got it.
So you always want to look at 2 levels above them as opportunities for mentorship, because they can put you in the seat next to your current boss. The only way I use my current boss as a mentor is if I see him as a very aspirational, high, ambitious leader, and I've seen him move or her move very quickly. So then I know there's an opportunity for him or her to move quickly, and that's how I can take their seat. So there's a strategy that I've deployed as I look at my career, and I didn't make it happenstance. I always told people, and that's another big one, you always must declare your desire for more. Be willing to do the work today, but do not believe just because you put your head down and work, which is what we were trained as children, right? If you put your head down and work and you do a good job, you'll get a promotion. That is not true. You have to think about the work that you do today, but also be strategic on how you'll move your career if you want those future goals.
Man, you said something really interesting and I caught it, and I'm hoping that our listeners caught it as well, David. You said him or her. Oftentimes, especially as Black men, we believe our mentors and our sponsors have to look like us, has to be another Black man. It doesn't. It doesn't. Speak to that process for you.
I'm so glad that you called that out, and it creates a really great story for the question you just asked.
Okay.
So back at Chase, when I was first trying to decide, so I made the move from Jericho, Long Island, New York, to Arlington, Texas. And while I was there, I was fortunate enough to run into some people. And there was one person in particular that I ran into that I just became akin with very, very quickly. And it was actually a female branch manager. She was Black in our branch system. And I was in the phone center. And she was my first true formal mentor at Allstate. And because of the experience, she helped me understand. She helped me learn more about the organization. She helped me learn more about how to choose mentors. Actually, she's left that, and she has a non-for-profit and a succession planning business. So like that's kind of her work today. Maybe I was one of her first students, but it was a Black female that actually was the one who nurtured me. And then also, when I talk about having that formal mentorship to leaders above you, when I was in a very junior leadership role, our most senior leader in the phone center was also a Black female. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to her and I supported her as best as I could. But then she saw that I had more ability than just the work that I was doing currently. So between those two Black female women, they were the original ones that helped me move. And then even when I go to Allstate now, and I'm in my career and I'm definitely between, is this the right company for me? Is this the right role for me? I definitely want more here and I don't necessarily see the career path. It was another Black woman who got promoted and then put me out in front of others. And because of her desire to help me showcase my talents, that's what helped me get promoted as well at Allstate. So there were 3 different Black women that I always give credit to for their helping me along the path, whether it was education, mentorship, or exposure. Those women all gave me all that I needed and the tools I needed to help me get to where I am today.
Man, shout out to the sisters, man, always coming through. I love it. I love it. All right, so we talked about mentorship. So I have to shift in this direction. We have to level that up. And let's talk a little bit about sponsorship. And the reason that's firm on my mind, I just moderated a panel on sponsorship, who's got your back, at the Black Enterprise Black Men Excel Conference. They did it at National Harbor in the DC area a couple of weeks ago. And I had a great set of panelists, Deontay Thompson from Dell, Donald Thompson, he's an entrepreneur, he has a consultancy firm, and Will Felder of the Ferrera Candy Company, but specifically his line is the now and later business, right? So all brothers, amazing dudes, but the conversation was on sponsorship and we spoke to the same thing, right? Those are the people that are advocating for you and speaking about you, possibly when you're not in the room, right? So as you were speaking about the person above you can't lift you up into their seat, but maybe somebody 2 up can handle that. But those are the people that you're probably not in the room with, so they need to be aware of you. What was your strategy? You spoke about having a strategy to get on the radar of those types of individuals. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, one of the things that I did, in my career was I always tried to make sure I was available for whatever opportunities were coming. At Chase, there was a team that was created, and I wanted to be the leader of that team. At Allstate, there were some additional projects that came up around helping develop every single leader that's onboarded into Allstate's organization. So what I always tried to do, one, is be a subject matter expert in something, right? For me, I'm quick with math, and I can, I use the analogy of the Matrix all the time, where, they talked about the green screen, but once you get it, you can see the picture. Yes. I'm good at helping people understand that this complex data can be simple, and I'll help you understand that. Right. So for me, it's always been around finance or financial acumen or business acumen. Those things have been high on my aptitude list. So I always use those to help put myself in position to be able to speak on something that I knew inside and out. So, one example was when I was a new agent leader, or when I was a new leader at Allstate, I understood their cash flow, and I really understood how the way that we were going to grow that organization was through new agent deployments. And I said I needed to be the expert on how those individuals come into our system and truly earn to the degree that they become successful, but then also so successful that their friends, their family, people that are adjacent to them see their success and they also want to come to the organization.
Yeah.
So I was really good at doing that, right? So people saw me as one of the top recruiters at Allstate, period. But then also being able to
although you weren't in a talent acquisition role, but
although I wasn't in a talent acquisition role, correct. So, you know, once they saw my ability to do those things, that helped them say, Dave can not only execute, but then he can also teach, because that's a skill. A lot of times people just want to be really good at the job that they are doing, but that doesn't make them good leaders or managers. And the thing about me was I was always willing, back to that servant leadership comment that I made earlier, this gave me a chance to bring others up to help them have success. And it only led itself to get more sponsorship because, you know, not only my boss's boss, but my boss's boss's boss wanted me to come now help teach on a national stage for Allstate on how to grow your market, you know, how to recruit, you know, how to lead your team. So because I was a subject matter expert on the onboarding, deployment, and success of new agents, it just put a spotlight on me that was a positive one, which then helped put me in different circles to be able to shake hands and speak to those individuals. So now they know me as a person. And I feel like I'm a good dude, even though I'm a Giants and Yankees fan.
I'll put the stamp on that.
So that's what I would say. To get sponsorship, you have to do something different or far better. You be elite at something. You know, I'll use a basketball analogy. Steph Curry is an elite three-point shooter. No one can contest that with him. It's evident. So if I want to go to the best person in my organization to help me shoot threes, who do you think I'm going to go to? I'm going to go to Steph Curry.
Yeah.
So I was the Steph Curry of new agent onboarding. So everybody came to me, and that's what helped give me additional exposure.
And if you can't get to Steph, you might want to call Dale, because he taught most of the boys how to shoot the ball there, because his brother shoot that thing too. Yeah. I get it. So, all right, this is a good time to get into this, right? So typically on the Black Box Act podcast, we go through 3 questions, kind of mandatory questions that we run through, really 4, but I want to speak to you about it, and let's start here. What is your advice for Black men that are at the entry-level stage of their careers, looking to get into a professional environment?
So that one, I think I kind of talked about it a little bit. It's first, because, you know, I still do a lot of mentorship. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, I hear from new entrants that, you know, I just got this job and they're already talking about promoting me to a manager. I'm like, if you just walked in the door and they're already talking to you about being a manager, there's something there that you might want to be, you know, thinking about or look into a little bit further. But be good at the job that you're in. So that's what I would say first. You know, it's always before you really start to think about and push yourself and try to promote yourself to be in the next job, make sure you're executing almost flawlessly at the current role that you're in, as flawlessly as possible. Okay. And then the second thing is about that ability to be coached. That is a big part, because when you see yourself in the next role, sometimes we see decisions made by our leaders, especially when we're young in our careers, it's like foolish. You're like, why would you do that? I wouldn't do that. And then you start to create conflict with your leader, and your leader, as a new entrant into the system, is your first advocate. So you want to make sure you create a good relationship there.
Okay, so we're learning the trade, developing the skill set, acquiring the skill set, and then we're serving well with our managers and being coached. Now it's time for us to pursue opportunities mid-career, middle management level opportunities. What do we need to be looking to accomplish in those roles?
Okay. Again, it's execution on a high level. There's not a job that you're going to be in that you can fail at and still get promoted. I personally, Black, white, any color, any race, any national, I have very seldom seen someone that has failed at a job and get promoted. So I would tell you again, it's always about execution in the role that you are currently in. That is paramount to your success. That's what gives you additional opportunities. As a mid-level manager, I always tell people, understand I call it the burden of potential. So if you are successful in your role, because of the level that you're at, you end up usually a frontline manager or a midline manager is more responsible for tactical things like get X, Y, and Z done. And as you move up in your career, tactical becomes less a part of what you do and strategy becomes more a part of what you do. So if you're a frontline manager who shows the aptitude to be successful, what you have to begin to be able to do is make sure that you're executing through your team, not you. Because a lot of times people want to take on the responsibility themselves. I can get it done quicker, faster, and better. But to be a good leader, you got to be able to do it through others. So you need to execute through your team, but be prepared for the burden of high potential, which is you're going to be pulled into different things. So I talked about being that SME, and then they wanted me to train across the country and things like that. I still had responsibility for my market at that time.
Sure, right.
So I still needed that to work, even though I was away doing this other stuff. So I call it the burden of being high potential. You're really working in two spaces at the same time, proving yourself for the success of the future.
Got it. So as a senior level exec, what is your responsibility to Black men that are coming into or looking to secure opportunities within an organization or it doesn't even have to be yours, but what is your responsibility to young Black professionals?
I hold myself out as a mentor to anyone. My cell phone, email is always available. If you connect with me on LinkedIn and you send me a note, I respond. I don't care if I've never met you before. I am a willing mentor to anyone. So I feel like that's my responsibility to give back. I also do obviously work through my fraternity very often to help support, younger brothers that are coming up. But what I do is I try to be, I would say, confidently humble, right? So people know because you've seen me, you've seen my career journey, or you see where I am today. Most people assume some level of success, but sometimes there's that, because that person might have some success, you might think that they're unapproachable. And I on purpose make myself very, very approachable to help those, because this is not an easy thing to be able to ascend in corporate America. There's been many trials and tribulations. I talked about, the things that I did that were on purpose to help me get to where I am. But I can tell you there were plenty of stumbling blocks and bumps in the road. But, again, seeking out mentorship and as a mentee, you have to remember it's your responsibility as a mentee to maintain the connection to your mentor. If you believe it's your mentor's responsibility to maintain a connection with you, that's an instant failure, and that's not going to be successful. So if you reach out to me, I know you're an open book as well. Make sure that you are on purpose about maintaining that relationship. And I think that will help you build a strategy. And then it's about being clear and concise in your message. Those types of things I know we can talk about.
Well, I want to be intentional and on purpose about maintaining this relationship. I really appreciate you and the things that you do, not simply in your role as Vice President of Field Distribution and Operations at AAA Group, but you as a person, man. You're a real good dude, and I saw that from the moment we met. So I just want to say kudos.
Thank you. Same to you, man. You're an awesome guy, man. Appreciate you.
All right, real quick before we jump off, this is the Bronx segment of the program. Does Aaron Judge re-sign with the Yankees?
I hope with everything in me. I'm gonna send a shout out to Aaron. I got 5 on it, man. Just come back to
I got you. If all the Yankee fans can put 5 on it, we got you.
We'll be all right. We'll be all right.
All right. Second question. The best rapper from the Bronx.
Well, man, you can't. He's one of the originals, so you got to put KRS-One on there. You know what I mean? I'm an older school cat.
I was hoping that's where you went with it.
I gotta go KRS, man. Gotta.
I respect that. I respect that. All right, listen, it's the Black Box That podcast, man. Hanging out with my man David Campbell. Listen, bro, I just appreciate you so much, man. Looking forward to future conversations. I know you're in and out of the city often, New York City.
Yes.
Our plans are to start doing this live in Harlem. We're gonna have you come back once we get that solidified. And
you just let me know. I'm there, man. I am there.
Let's do it. It's the Black Box App podcast. Kenneth L. Johnson, David Campbell. Thank you for joining us. We're going to keep doing them, man. Frontliners TV, YouTube. We'll post through on LinkedIn, but we're just trying to amplify the voices of Black men. Black Box, a career consciousness portal for Black men. If you want information, go to Blackbox, blkbox.tech, T-E-C-H, blackbox.tech. Download the app, lock in with us. We'll be here. Thank you.